What is going on, everyone? We are here with another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill at this point is we are finally up over 100 episodes. It's been a long 3 years, but it's also been a super fun 3 years. I mean, I've just been talking to so many new artists, hearing so many new songs, and just hearing about so many new journeys. And that's just what I love doing about this, is just making those new connections, because the music business is one of the hardest industries to really make new friends and make new connections, and those doors don't just open themselves. You have to kind of kick some of them down every once in a while. They don't just open up with the key. So it's hard, but I'm super excited. And as much as I love hearing artists from all over the world, it's the ones that really kind of hit back at home, which is back here in Massachusetts and Boston area and stuff like that. And that's kind of where we both are, even though we're on Zoom today, but we are both chilling and having a good time. And I welcome Becca Hannah to the show. How are you today?
I am good. How are you? Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
No, of course. I mean, not too bad here in Massachusetts today. Kind of a little gloomy, a little
Okay.
toasty, but like also a little cool. So not too bad.
Yeah, it's refreshing, I would say. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
not too
it's been a little hectic just because it has been like 80s and 90s, and then like the weekend dropped down to like 50s and 60s and
yeah.
like rain. So I
Really bizarre.
was, I mean,
Yeah.
typical New England weather, I guess, at that
Yeah,
point.
for real. Like very unpredictable. You really never know what you're gonna get.
No,
But yeah, I'm happy to be here, Andrew. Thank you so much.
no, of course.
So
It always means a lot to me that artists just take time out of their day to sit here and talk about their story through music. And it really just kind of sets up the first question, which is always the basic of basics. But where did everything kind of start for you, singing and playing wise? Because I know for some people, it starts the day they were born. They start humming nursery rhymes, and then it just slowly progresses from there. But I always like to compare the other half to someone like myself, who only started the whole songwriting process back in 2018, which was about 5 years ago now. So for you, kind of where did all that come about?
yeah, so honestly, for as long as I can remember, like I've always just been singing and belting around my living space. Like there's like video footage of me at 3 years old just singing my heart out, singing like Carrie Underwood songs, um, wearing a blonde wig. I was like channeling some like inner Hannah Montana stuff, honestly. I was really into it, and I had like a little karaoke machine. Yeah, I was just singing all the time. And then, in elementary school, I was in all the plays. I started getting voice lessons on and off here and there. And then throughout middle school, was also keeping that up, was in all the shows and stuff, and in high school and in college. And yeah, and then I feel like so I graduated college in 2020, and from then on, I just like really dedicated a lot of time to music and really took it seriously for the first time. Not that I didn't take it seriously before, but I really spent intentional time like working on my vocal craft and working on my songwriting skills, working on my guitar playing skills. And honestly, that was the silver lining of the pandemic for me. I feel like I just acquired so much more skill and technique, that having all that, I wouldn't really be able to spend that much time working on had I not been given all that time. So it was a very meditative practice for me too. And I still do these same vocal exercises basically every day that I started doing in the pandemic. And I started writing a lot more. I connected with some people in New York in the fall of 2020, and um, wrote and recorded a bunch of records, collabed with other artists, and from then on, I kind of like took off. I felt like after meeting a handful of people in the industry in New York, I started networking more and more, and I started releasing music. I started writing my own music. I was writing music honestly in high school. But I wasn't really taking it as seriously as I began to in 2020. And then I reconnected with my band from college, and we started performing more once stuff started opening up. I started performing more solo gigs. And yeah, I feel like it's kind of just been this very non-linear progression of networking with other creatives, releasing more music, experimenting with different songwriting techniques, experimenting with different genres of music. And yeah, it's kind of just one of those things where you never really know what's going to come next, but you just trust the process. And I honestly don't even know where I'd be without music. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
and that's awesome. I mean, you always just have to kind of dive in sometimes because I live by this quote, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Oh
And
yeah,
I mean, just the pandemic really was a light for some people. I mean, obviously it was a dark time and
totally.
not the greatest, but I mean, it gave people so many opportunities to do things. Like you started really honing in on your craft for music, and that's when I started this whole podcast series.
Yeah.
And it's crazy the opportunities that were able to come from that. And it's always cool too because you can sit there and listen to every artist that I've had on the show and be like, yeah, no, they're great artists, like they have cool songs. But to me, the fascinating part is really just hearing the stories on how they picked up their first guitar,
Yes.
how they started singing their first lines in music. And like that's just those are the stories that I always love to hear. I mean, because they're just cool stories, and it's always just fascinating because yeah, you can sit there and you can sing. I know you can, obviously, listening to a lot of your songs, but
Yes, thank
like
you.
when
Yeah.
did you first start singing? When did you pick up that first guitar and just how did things progress? That's always why I love starting with that question. And it's obviously, I mean, they're all my favorite
Yeah.
questions, but I just love hearing those stories.
Yeah. I started playing the guitar when I was like 11. My mom's friend was giving me lessons, and um honestly from the start I've kind of just I felt like my teachers all kind of did stuff by ear, which um is beautiful but obviously has its pros and cons. And I started learning how to play guitar by ear as well. Like, so my first teacher, he taught me some simple chord progressions and whatnot. And I remember the first song I learned how to play was The Lion Sleeps Tonight. And it kind of just it kind of just took off from there. But yeah, I never, like, I am terrible. I like don't know how to read sheet music or anything. Here and like, I'm like okay with reading tabs, but yeah, I do stuff just like, I don't really know. I kind of sometimes some of the chords I play in the guitar, I don't even know the names of all the time. I'm like, oh, I know this is like a third, like I don't even know, but it's been like this process of like sometimes I'm um playing chords that I know, and other times I'm kind of just like messing around and
Right.
like
No, and I
yeah,
mean, like,
I don't
not even the greatest guitar player myself. So, like, sometimes I'm just like sitting there and strumming, and like sometimes I'll have to like record it and like send it to like one of my friends or something and be like, "Do you even know like what like chord progression this is or anything like that?"
yeah,
Because like I don't know what I'm doing right now, but like I kind of vibe.
yeah. No, exactly. And that's like the issue with my band sometimes because it's like we all like are so attuned to each other when we're playing. But then sometimes they're like, "Oh, it's actually like I think that I'm playing like an E major seventh, but I'm like actually playing like a D major seventh." Like I have to just like I have to spend some time and really like memorize the fretboard. For sure. But yeah, and then I was kind of like that with keyboard too. I got piano lessons when I was a kid, and I could read music. I still can, but it's very slow. So I kind of just play chord piano just to sing along to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's awesome. And kind of jumping into the second question a little bit, as I always tell people, is I could sit here for honestly, like just looking at this question, I could sit here for like 3 hours just talk about this honestly. But talking about inspirations is just literally I could go the list just goes on as like I always say, and I always have to just say is because one of these days he's gonna hear my podcast. I mean, he probably actually never will, but Chris Daughtry, I mean, one of my all-time favorite artists. Like I love all genres of music. I mean, people knew I grew up on that like 90s early 2000s country, but then you
Yeah.
have that like you have rock and roll, you have hip hop, you have pop, you have that R&B, you have all kinds of different lanes that you can go down and listen to. But kind of for you is being a singer and songwriter, who are some inspirations that you have kind of really looked up to when it comes to either singing or songwriting for yourself?
So definitely Amy Winehouse, and a lot of people tell me, "Oh my God, you sound like her." But it's funny because a fellow creative that I work with made a really good point where you end up finding your true voice when you try to sing like your inspiration or your the artist that you look up to, you never actually sound exactly like them. And the the difference, like the way you sound different from that artist is finding your true voice, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So Amy Winehouse is definitely up there. I would also say Nora Jones, Corinne Bailey Ray. And again, other people tell me I sound like them too. And I mean, it really just depends on the song I'm singing.
Uh-huh.
But I love those women so much. And then of course the Beatles. I also love Mac DeMarco. I feel like all of these artists have really shaped like the chord progressions I use and also the way that I write as well as the way that I perform. I kind of just like take bits and pieces of what stands out to me, and it inspires me to like embrace it and perform it and embody it in my own way.
Yeah.
And my also it's yeah, my inspiration kind of shifts depending on the mood I'm in or the type of music I feel like listening to or whether I'm playing with my band or solo with my acoustic guitar. So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, and that's awesome because I mean, it's just all those songwriters that you named, and I mean, I could go on in a list and name a
Yeah.
million other ones too, but there are so many talented songwriters out there too, which is just what I love about the whole music industry itself is just being able to sit there and tell a story from start to finish. And that's kind of going to lead into this next question because I always love rushing to get to the third question because it's one of
Yeah.
my favorites just being a songwriter myself, but I always have to quote Garrett Walker, who was on the show, and he said the songwriting process is like a puzzle. You kind of have
Mhm.
all those pieces scattered on the table, and slowly you start piece by piece, you put it together. You build that border, you build the middle, and by the end, you have that full masterpiece. It's going to
Yeah.
take you a little while, and it's going to take some hard work and time and dedication, but it might even take you a few weeks, a couple of days, like whatever, but eventually it's all going to come. And I know as a songwriter, you know as a songwriter, sometimes there is no rhyme or reason to the whole creative process. It can come at random days, random hours, and
Totally.
it's wild. But kind of for you is you have a bunch of songs out right now, and obviously you're releasing more. Obviously, you got that one coming out tomorrow, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
But what is kind of your whole process like when it comes to writing a song?
So, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like every song has had its different process. I will come up with the most like exhilarating ideas sometimes in the worst moments. Like if I'm with people or, if honestly, I take that back. There's no worst moments, just like unexpected
Yeah.
moments. Like sometimes I'll come up with an idea and I'll just like record a voice memo on my phone or I'll just like strum a chord progression or I listen to a beat and kind of just like stream of consciousness. Like I kind of just sing. It's almost like I tune into myself when I'm intentionally preparing to write a song. I'm tuning into myself and like my internal monologue, I guess, and subconscious words and emotions kind of just come out and I'm like, "Oh, that clicks. That works." Um in the past I've um like come up with lyrics before the music and vice versa, but I feel like lately it's kind of just been the type of thing that comes the lyrics and the music kind of come simultaneously if I'm like singing over a beat or singing over instruments. And it's funny, I've written a great song in like less than an hour, but it's also taken me months to finish a great song because I'll write a first verse and a hook, and then I'm like, I can't tell if I love this. And then I go out and have more life experience for a few months. And then I'm given that answer of like where the second verse can go from there. So it's never this linear process, which can be kind of anxiety inducing, but like it, as long as, I'm honoring what's coming out of my mouth and onto the paper because you can really surprise yourself.
Exactly. No, and that's what it's so crazy to me sometimes because you can just sit there, and I mean, I know it's come at 1 in the afternoon and it's come at 1 in the morning for me sometimes,
Yeah,
like, just,
for
like,
sure.
and, like, you could be driving in the car or take like, it sounds random, but taking a shower sometimes too. It's like all of a sudden,
Oh,
like, you're
yes.
like how you like everyone's the best shower singer, we all know that,
Oh my
but,
God, yeah.
like, sometimes it just, like, clicks to you and, like, it's crazy, and I mean, obviously, you probably know too, is, like, you have a million voice memos on your phone. If you don't as a singer or
God.
a songwriter, like, I don't really know if you're actually supposed to be in the
I know.
business.
I know. Yeah, no, my phone just like all the voice memos, all the lyrics on my notepad, all the lyrics in my journals, like it is all very discombobulated, all very disorganized, which but like I can't I don't know. I'm not great at organization.
Me
However, I feel like that's what like allows me to be so um free about it. Like sometimes I'll write a song in my phone, other times I'll write it in my journal. Sometimes I'll record the whole thing on voice memo, other times I'll just remember it and record it on Logic like a rough demo, And it's all a very honestly, it is an incredibly disorganized process. But it works for me because I'm a disorganized person. So
No, I mean, it works for me
yeah,
too because that's how
yeah,
I am. Like, it
yeah,
never, like, some days, like you said too, like, to kind of touch up on something else, is like you said, sometimes you can write a song in an hour. And then some
yeah.
days it's like 4 years later, you're going back to that song and you're
Oh,
like,
here it is.
oh, like, okay, now I can kind of finish it up and do what I need to do. But, like,
Exactly.
it's so crazy that there is no rhyme or reason. There's no book on how to songwrite. Like, it's such
Yeah,
a gift and it's such a passion for people to be able to just sit there and tell stories.
truly. And I will say that like co-writing is an incredible, beautiful thing. Like being able to write with someone else who will challenge your ideas and you'll challenge their ideas and you'll create this like beautiful product that you might necessarily wouldn't have been able to do on your own. And it's not to say that like you can't write a song on your own. Like I write songs on my own too, but I co-wrote with someone on Thursday and it was I wouldn't have been able to come up with the hook idea that I came up with without his help because we both have different inspirations and sources of ideas. And I think that that's just like such a beautiful thing. It also holds you accountable for like finishing a song, because sometimes I'll start a song and I'll get distracted and I'll be like, I'll put this off and go to it later. And then I never go back to it.
Yeah.
But when you're working with someone, it helps with the discipline and it helps you really challenge yourself in a way that for me personally, I'm not necessarily always able to challenge myself in that way when it's just me.
Yeah.
So
No, and that's awesome because, like, I recently, like, this year, like, I just finally, like I said earlier, I had hit 100 episodes on the podcast, and I've just been doing a couple more here and there to just keep up with it and stuff. But, like, really, since the beginning of the year, is focusing on that whole songwriting aspect of things, is just being like able to write by myself and co-writing and stuff like that. I've been writing for 5 years now with myself and with other people, and sometimes it's just really cool to have that room because, like you said, like, I have songs that I have just sat on the back burner for like months on months, but
yeah,
then you go into a co-write, and I just had one like probably, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago now, and it's just like you're like, oh, okay, like, I need to keep touching base with that and like keep talking to that person to see how it, and like, it really challenges you, like you said, sometimes, and
yeah,
that's what's so cool about it. It's like an obligation, like, you have to kind of
yeah,
be able to go back to it. And sometimes it is tedious because there is writer's block. Like, that is a thing. And you can sit
totally.
there, and if you stare at it for so long, nothing's going to happen, like, sometimes. And
Yeah.
some days you sit there and you can stare at it for 4 hours and then it does pop to you. But it's the creative process is just so wild, honestly. And there's so many avenues we could go down with this whole topic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's definitely not a one size fits all thing too. It's very like unique to each individual.
No, exactly. And I mean, there are so many other artists out there too, singers and songwriters. And that's going to kind of lead into this next question here, which is, I would say, is my favorite question by far because it's always the hardest question that I do ask on the show. And there are hundreds and thousands of artists out there on like streaming platforms and social medias like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all that fun stuff.
Mhm.
And for someone like yourself, I mean, it's hard to be able to sit there and post like covers of your songs or post covers of other artists' songs because when you hit that post button, there's a thousand other artists hitting that post button at the same time as you sometimes. And it just, you kind of get lost in like the transition. And like, it's hard to just be like, hey, this is who I am. This is me. But for people that kind of don't know who you are or just finding you for the first time, is what makes you you compared to these other artists and just kind of what can we take away from your music?
I think um, something that makes me different from other artists that I know is the fact that I have also spent a lot of time um, working towards helping others. And not to say that other artists don't help others, but I have this other passion for the mental health field and been studying the power of music therapy and expressive arts therapies and how they can really meet every human where they are and really help humans heal and grow and work through the discomfort of being a human. And I'm really passionate about facilitating that process in other people. Like, obviously, I'm passionate about like um, creating music that other people can empathize with, as I assume all artists are passionate about. But I also am really interested in like working with people one on one. Like, I teach yoga part time right now. I'm really really interested in just in just serving others in other ways than me just performing for them. So that's something that I don't know how that's going to manifest on my path, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. I love answers like that. And we had kind of talked about it before we hopped on the podcast too, just to talk
Yeah.
about kind of some of the questions. And it always brings me back to Bailey James, who was on the show. And she is just like, it just, I love hearing those topics because I feel like sometimes people are afraid to talk about them and just
Yeah.
like bring them up on podcasts and on social media and stuff like that because nowadays the world is tough and like I admit it, like it's a hard thing sometimes.
Yeah,
And I
totally. Yeah.
just I give you all the props in the world for being able to just sit there and talk about it and being able to do what you do because that's just it's such a passion. And I always say it when I songwrite is yeah, it's great to touch a million people with a song that you write, but at the end of the day for me is it's that one or two people that reach out to you and be like, "Hey, like I'm going through this too." And like it just thank you to know that I'm not alone and that this helps and it's just it's so heartwarming and just it drives me to just keep writing more music and tell more stories.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate that question too.
Yeah.
And
No,
yeah.
and it's always one of my favorites. Like I love that question. But kind of obviously getting towards the end here and obviously getting to the more fun part of the show, which is going to be hearing a song from you. But kind of looking towards your future a little bit, as you have a lot of songs out. I was jamming out to them earlier, getting ready for the podcast and everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. But kind of what are some of your short-term and long-term goals and just what else can we expect down the road from you? Obviously, I know you said that you have a song coming out tomorrow, but just
We
kind
have
of
a single coming
future-wise,
out
what else
tomorrow.
can we expect?
Yeah. So I will be hopefully releasing an EP in the fall. We shall see. Um, I have a lot of songs finished. I've just kind of, it's just been kind of a challenge organizing them in a way that is cohesive and makes sense to me on a project. But yeah, I have a single coming out tomorrow. I will be releasing another single later this summer. I'll be releasing a music video very soon. Um, I'm trying to, so I was just performing in New York this weekend. So I'll be performing more in New York later in the summer and in the fall, as well as LA. So yeah, just, like I feel like the more and more gigs I get, the more connections I make and the more I progress as an artist and as a human and a performer. And yeah, I mean, in terms of short-term goals, like I will definitely be releasing more projects and performing more and writing more. And long-term goals, the same. I just want to touch people's hearts. So
No, and that's awesome. I mean, just hearing your songs, like I love what you're doing. I love the style that you have and I just can't wait to see what else happens for you. Normally, this is when I say like if you're ever up here in Boston, like I'll be front row in the show, but obviously you already
oh
are
yeah.
here in Boston. So
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, like
Yeah.
I'll be front row no matter what at that point, obviously.
Yeah. August 12th, we have something at Hurricanes in
Oh,
Boston.
okay.
Yeah, like downtown. So
Oh, all right, say less. Like literally I'll be there. Like
amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be there with
but
my band.
yeah, no, but obviously I just can't wait to see what else happens for you. And like I'm just looking forward to some of these new singles. Obviously the one that drops tomorrow, and just I can't wait to see what else happens for you down the
Yeah.
road.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm thrilled and I love talking about this stuff. So thank you so much for having me. I'm gonna grab my computer charger because it's about to die. And then I'll play my song that drops tomorrow. It is called My Old Ways. That
Awesome.
one.
All right, so yeah, no, other than that, obviously we will let you do your little performance. Like I always say, is I'll put myself on mute, obviously, because if I start singing, then glass will start breaking and all that fun stuff. But I'll put myself on mute, and the floor is yours.
Sweet. All right. Thank you. So yeah, this song is called My Old Ways, and this releases tomorrow, June 7th. Why do I always apologize? And when will I start taking my advice? Why do I always fall back to my old ways? It comes in waves through the season. This takes over and I get so lost in my mind. Every time I try to find the light in me, I always say sorry before they can speak. I might not be wrong, but it gets the best of me, and I don't know why. Yeah, I let them walk all over me. So, why do I always apologize? When will I start taking my advice? Why do I always fall back to my old way? I'm getting rid of all the ones that always take from me. They never pull back and tell me. They always leave me feeling so empty. Their bullshit surrounds me. I got enough stress on my own. The weight they put on me got me questioning my needs. Well. And clouding my judgment, I can't sleep in peace. So somebody tell me, why do I always apologize? When will I start taking my advice? Why do I always fall back to my old way? Yeah, oh, why do I always fall back to my old way? Thank
I
you.
mean, always one of my favorite parts of the show is hearing a little live acoustic performance of a song from an artist because, like I said,
Yeah.
I get to put and like that was actually one of the ones that I was kind of scrolling through on your TikTok and stuff and heard. And like it makes it so much better that I can put myself on mute because my windows did start cracking when I started singing. But obviously they ain't cracking when you're singing
Yeah.
because like your vocals and tone are just so amazing. Your songwriting is just it's amazing and like I just love what you're doing and I obviously can't wait for that to come out tomorrow because that'll be on repeat all day, honestly.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank
No,
you.
of course. So obviously that comes out tomorrow, June 7th, we said, right? I don't even know what today's date is,
Yeah,
honestly. I
today
know it's June.
I had to look at my,
Yeah.
yeah.
But so that comes out on all streaming platforms tomorrow. And speaking of social medias and platforms, where can people go check you out if they haven't heard of you already?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on Instagram at underscore Becca Hannah underscore. So someone took just the normal Becca Hannah handle, unfortunately. It's not even an account that like has a photo or any posts, which is annoying. But so it's BeccaHannah. So my Instagram handle is underscore Becca Hannah underscore. And then I also have a website, just BeccaHannahMusic.com. And I'm on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all of that, at Becca Hannah. Yeah. And my band is called The Proper Lovers, and we're on Instagram as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, awesome. I mean, people definitely go check Becca Hannah out. She is super, super talented, has a lot of good songs out there, and is going to have another great song out there tomorrow. So, I mean, we definitely all have to go check her out. I will be listening to her music from now on. But
Thank you.
just thank you again so much for taking time out of your day to be here and talk about your story through music and play a little song for us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor. And
Of
yeah,
course. No,
definitely.
that's what I love doing. I just love doing these interviews. And obviously, y'all know is that every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, we got new music, new stories, new artists. Never know who's going to pop through. Never know what you're going to hear, what you're going to see. So, y'all stay tuned for next week. And thanks for tuning in today.
Thank you guys.